Thank you for our restoration. Thank you for reconciliation.
Hello, everyone, and greetings to those who will tune into this message. My name is Jerlene, and today I want to talk about being people who are considerate and people of integrity. I thought about how those two go hand in hand, and I have been in the book of First Kings, and I just finished it. And I noticed a lot of things in how the decisions of other people affected others as I read through, whether it was the Sarah woman, or Ahab and Jezebel, or Solomon and David, or Jeroboam and the many other kings in that book. I realized that their decision affected other people. So if we start with David, we see in 1 Kings 9 how God tells Solomon, if you follow after your father David, then basically he will bless him. So I do want to read that to you. It says in 1 Kings 9, it says, and the Lord said unto him, being Solomon, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have hallowed this house which you have built to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And if you will walk before me as David your father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my judgment, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David your father, saying, there shall not fail you a man upon the throne of Israel. But if you will at all turn from following me, you or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among people. So I'll stop there. So, and we know that Solomon, towards the end of his reign, and as I said, I've been in 1 Kings and I finished the book. Towards the end, he ends up not keeping the statutes and the commandments of the Lord because of the many wives that he had, and he began to serve their gods, and he built altars unto them, and that was not pleasing to the Lord, and that made the Lord angry. And so I want to look at this. I want to look at this in two perspectives, in that because David was a man of integrity, and I think it says it somewhere in 1 Kings how, David, he did everything according to the will of God. It mentions, and I really like how it was worded. Maybe it's chapter 8. 11. Basically, it says how David did well. He was pleasing before the Lord, except for the matter of Uriah the Hittite, which we know that he took his wife and because he did that, he had his soldiers kill him. And so that was not pleasing before the Lord. But nonetheless, found it. It says, because David did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord and turned not aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life, save only in the matter of Uriah the Hittite. So God was pleased with David. And so though Solomon did what was not pleasing to God towards the end by building altars and being idolatrous, but because of David's sake, because David's heart was perfect towards the Lord. I know this because it mentions it right in this chapter. It says how the heart of another king was not perfect with the Lord, his God, as the heart of David, his father. So to be considerate is to have a heart that is perfect towards the Lord. To have integrity is to have a heart that is perfect before the Lord. And in that, because our heart towards the Lord is pure and righteous and upright, then we begin to consider how our decisions is not simply impacting us. It's not simply going to change or shift our lives, but it's going to impact and shift and change the lives of other people. So when we hear the word, often is used, how like, oh, you're being inconsiderate, meaning you're not being mindful of another. You're not thinking about how what you're doing may not be beneficial to another person. So because of how David lived his life before the Lord and how his heart was towards God and towards the people, even his enemies, God, in this chapter 15, 1 Kings 15, says that, because of David, because of how he lived before me, because he was a man of integrity, because he was considerate of his decisions, because he was considerate of his many decisions, except for that of Uriah the Hittite, like, that caused his, generations after him to basically have grace and favor in the sight of God. And so because of David, God always kept one on the throne for his sake. And if we look at the story of the widow, of how, she had only a little bit of meal left, and she only had a little bit of oil left, and she was getting ready to make it so that her and her son could eat and die. But Elijah comes to her and says, hey, no, feed me first. Consider me first. Take care of me first. Put me before you. And when she did that, even though that was her last, she believed God. And she fed Elijah. And because she did that, that cruse of oil and that barrel of meal did not cease. And it fed them and sustained them during that time of hardship in that city or in that area. And so when we are considerate of other people, it causes us to obtain favor with God. It causes us to obtain favor with the people of God. So we have to make sure that in every decision that we are making, we're considering others rather than just self. Because it's easy for man to consider self. Man is selfish, you know. When we can step outside of ourselves and really consider, well, why is someone really saying to do this? Well, it's because if you do this, then it'll benefit the whole. But if you do that, it may benefit you, but it won't benefit the whole. And so we have to be mindful that the decisions that we're making is unifying. It's benefiting everyone and not just ourselves. That within itself is integrity, because that's us being true to the Spirit of God. It's us being true to the heart of God. Being righteous, being good, doing what's good, what's better, doing what's just. And so we have to live and make decisions with consideration of God and of others. And when we do that, then we won't lack anything. When we do that, the curses won't follow us. When we do that, we'll be blessed. And the people around us will be blessed. And if we look at also the story of Ahab and Jezebel, you know, Naboth didn't want to give up his inheritance because he understood that he should not. And Ahab was willing to give him more than what it was worth. He just liked the area that it was in. And Naboth, he understood that, no, this is my inheritance from the Lord. And he said no. And when Jezebel went and, you know, took Naboth's life and took his inheritance, not only did she die, but because Ahab was aware of it and did not cause judgment, the Lord sent a prophet and told both of them that they were going to die. And the way they died was just unpleasant. And so we have to be considerate, we have to be integrous, we have to be true, we have to be honest. When we are that way, it causes God to bless us. It causes God to order all of our steps. It causes God to trickle blessings unto generations to come. We see that with David. Like, literally, God kept a king on the throne of Israel for his sake, even when, like, God would be angry with a certain king because they sinned in his eyes or did evil in his sight or before him. But because of David's sake, God would always allow there to be a king on the throne of Israel. And that's big. That's big. It really shows that when we are people of integrity, people that are upright in heart, people that are one way, when we are people that strive for goodness, and people that strive to operate out of the heart of God and the love of God, then God really does stand up for us, and he really does make everything be beneficial for us and for those we are connected to, whether that be our seed, friends, family, co-workers, neighbors. When we're considerate, when we make decisions with awareness of the will of God and not just our will or our desire, our pleasure, other people get to partake of those decisions. But when we make decisions just for ourselves, then the likelihood is that other people will either not partake of that, or they will be in harm's way, as we see with Jezebel and Ahab. Well, she did that, and that was not a good decision. But in her heart, she thought it was a good decision. But it caused both of them to die. And evidently that affected the city, I'm sure. And now we have 3 dead people. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to cause for there to be a lack for another, when we can make decisions that are considerate and be provision for another. So that is my encouragement today. Let us be people who are full of integrity and who make decisions with a consideration of God and other people, and not just ourselves. So may the Lord grant us the grace and the power to walk in that truth, so that we can see his favor unfold on our lives and on the lives of those around us. In Jesus'